Well, hello, Colin. How are you today?
Absolutely fine, Nige, and really looking forward to talking to our friend Joe.
Yes, absolutely. And tell me, what number podcasts are we up to now?
Well, this is 21, which is must be a sort of
21. 21.
significant,
That
lucky
is
number.
really, really good. Okay, should we get started then, Colin, do you think? And you're all ready? So, really nice to have you with us, Joe.
Thank you.
And so, can I start off by asking, what did you do before retiring?
A number of things, really. Just before retiring, I used to run part-time stage school for children, part of the Stagecoach franchise. So I ran a number of their schools in different places. And before that, well, I did that for about 12 years. And before that, I was performing myself and directing in shows. A lot of them were children's shows, but we did a lot of local shows as well with some friends, actor friends in the local area. Then before that, I used to work for a company that sold games in a shop. I used to, I was in charge of a region of shops, and I was before that in charge of a shop in Kingston. And then before that, this was a long time ago, I was a computer programmer.
Wow, there's quite a variety of jobs. We had, out of interest, a children's actor. Not, yes, it was a children's actor, wasn't it?
Clive.
Clive. Probably shouldn't mention his surname on air, but he was very interesting. Very interesting. That's the only other showbizy one we've had.
Not very good at show busy, Joe, I'm afraid. Hope we
So,
don't disappoint you.
when you first retired, what were the first 6 months like?
I was thinking about this one, and they were busy, but in different ways. I was waiting for my wife to retire because we knew she was going to. Once I'd sold the franchise, we were just waiting for her to retire. We were also looking to sell our house and move, because one of the reasons why we decided we'd go into retirement was because my daughter, we only have the one child, and she just had her first child. And it was just towards the end of lockdown. And then that she had the child, and we'd spent the next 6 months traveling up and down to Scotland just to visit her and to be with the child and everything. And we missed the actual time of the birthing because Nicola Sturgeon locked the borders. Nobody was allowed into Scotland. But it was literally the day before we were due to come up. She announced that we couldn't get in, which was fine because the child, the baby was 2 weeks late anyways. We would have been hanging around locked in. We wouldn't have been able to get out, but we would have been hanging around for 2 weeks waiting. So it worked out okay, but we spent a long time traveling backwards and forwards. And this was whilst we were still waiting for my wife to retire. And then I was looking to what we were going to sell, and selling a house isn't just finding somebody to buy it. It's also working out what you're going to keep and what you're going to get rid of and where you're going to get rid of it, sort of thing. There could be clear outs and all that. So I was quite busy doing that, but also very excited about the whole move thing.
Yes.
I remember it, Joe. It's a big thing because you and Fran had been in Twickenham area really all your lives. Yeah, mostly. I'd lived in Scotland for a year previously, or just over a year, really, about 18 months working when I was into the computers. And also we've spent a year living in Canada. So we were used to the move and the not being around. We did still have the base the whole time, if you like, around the Twickenham area. I think a lot of people thought that we had a stronger link than we did because we'd been around, and also we'd been looking to move out of Twickenham for nigh on 40 years before we moved, and different things had stopped us from moving. So for us, it wasn't a major deal, but I think for everybody else, it seemed like it was a much bigger thing than it was.
What happened in Canada? What was that all about, the move there?
We were given the opportunity to swap houses with somebody.
Wow.
An old school friend of my wife, Francesca, and it coincided with my daughter finishing her O-levels.
Oh, yeah.
And so we thought, well, you don't get this opportunity very often. It was for a full year. They wanted to swap, and so we just did it, and we loved it. It was absolutely glorious the whole time. My daughter hated us for the first little bit, and then realised she was living in. She said she felt like she was living on a film set the whole time. because she was in high school with all of the high school things, and it really is like you see in the movies. And silly little things like she was truly impressed with the overhead traffic lights instead of the ones on poles that we have in the UK. They're all overhead on big cables, and she loved that. She thought it was the greatest thing ever. And it was a
So
beautiful city. Vancouver's where we stayed. Beautiful there.
were you tempted to stay longer?
Yes, but we weren't allowed to. I think somebody must have sent them a letter. We applied for working visas and were rejected. We applied for longer term visas and were rejected. But it
Yeah.
probably worked out for the best.
Yes, it sounds
So
like
finding it a sort of a new place to live and retiring, because a lot of people, what do they do in retirement? They're kind of they're staying in the same house. But the fact you've retired and moved house and moved country all, within a year or so,
Yeah, yeah.
what was that like?
Exciting, I think, is that there was no time to be bored. Not only were we moving, basically uprooting ourselves, but we also had a grandchild to dote over whilst we were up here, and everything, and everything was new. We moved up to rental because we wanted to look around properly rather than just buy a place, having viewed it a few times, and which meant we got to know the whole area really, really well. We spent a long time driving around into the different places, looking at different properties and all of that. So we got to know the place very, very well. But it was just it was very exciting. It's sort of the same as most exciting things. You're just nervous at the same time because it's a big step. It was a constant newness, constant excitement. Lots to look at, lots to do, lots of new.
you've been up there around about 5 years. So what sort of activities have you been up to in that time?
Oh, well, we have to settle into a brand new community, which is what we've done. We found a house in a little village, which we thought was going to be very quiet. It's a very quiet, sleepy little village when lots of people drive through it, but not a lot of people know anything about it. And we got in, we found out it is one of the busiest places we have ever known. So much happens here within. It's phenomenal. They've got one of the things when we were looking was I said there has to be a coffee shop because otherwise there isn't a social centre in a village like this. And they have a community coffee shop that's attached to the the village hall. And we started to go in there, and one of our neighbours came over and introduced themselves, and she just happens to be one of the people who's very active within the community. Within a week, we were going to something called Musical Memories, which is almost an Alzheimer's Society group. And they invited us along to that to see what it was like. And they wanted us to get a bit more involved, but we didn't want to do it straight away. But also, Francesca was a librarian before, and they have a little free library that in the community hall. And she was told that she's now in charge of that, and so she had to take that on. And so there's so much going on here that we get involved in. We've been invited to join the bowls club, which we haven't done yet. There's a drama group, there's a table tennis group that I've joined. There's all sorts of things going on. There's a pub that's run by the community that's not owned by anybody. It's owned by the community and run by the community, basically. So that there's a lot that goes on there as well. If we wanted to, we could be out all day and all night just doing things in what we thought was a quiet, sleepy little village where we would just sit back and do nothing. It's really good. I mean, it's surprising, but it's really good for us.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, the word community keeps coming up.
Yeah.
So if you had to pass on advice, someone said, look, Joe, in 6 months' time, we're going to do this big move. What sort of advice would you give?
Get a community. Because we go to church and get involved in our church a lot, we automatically get a community when we move because we find a church and we get involved in it. And that's in a different village to the one we live in. So we've got another hook into that. But find a community and get involved. Don't sit back and don't feel old because you're not, I think is the trick. Get involved, do things, meet people everywhere. I think it's probably got a lot more going on than you think it has.
And what's
And
your
just
favorite
do
activity
stuff.
of
My
all these?
favorite activity is it's probably the one that makes me the most nervous as well. It's the drama group that they have. It's a little village drama group, and I have to be quite wary about what I say when I'm watching it because I've helped them direct shows. I've been involved in a show, performed in a show up here, and I'm doing all sorts of different things, and I have to be quite careful to keep my mouth closed sometimes about it, because it's very different coming at it from a professional angle and then going at and seeing it from a purely for fun angle. And I have to, remember that they're not there all day, every day, rehearsing and practicing and wanting to put on this pristine performance.
And what shows have you put, sort of shows have you put on?
Here, they do lots of one acts and they do pantos. And this year, for the first time, they're putting on a summer show, which is a musical, which they haven't done before. But their pantos are their big thing because they get lots of children involved. And the first time I got involved was with the one act plays that they put on for one evening. They spend 3 months rehearsing to put on a show for one night.
Wow.
Which it sort of freaks me out. I went in to help and ended up being basically an assistant director. One of the directors was new and said, could I sit in and give him advice and help him out? And so I did a lot of that. Upset people along the way, which is when I learned I have to be quiet a little bit more. And then in the winter, they asked me if I'd come along because they knew about my background with the stage school. They asked me to come along and look after the children because they had 30 or 40 children that were going on stage, which means that they have a lot of time of not doing anything, especially during rehearsals. So they asked me to come along and get involved doing that. So I did that as well. And then I was on stage doing one of the one acts, which was, it was like a film noir on stage with like Sam Spade sort of thing, which was lots of fun. Just two of us doing it.
Oh, wow. Gosh, incredible. And so what's going to happen over the next 5 years?
Well, I was thinking about that one quite a lot recently. We've now got 2 grandchildren, been looking after them for 2-3 days a week, and that's going to stop soon because they're going to go to school. So we're going to suddenly have all of this extra time that we haven't had. So we're working out what we're going to do there. And we've decided mostly we're going to go out and see Scotland. We're going to, travel around, jump on a coach rather than jump in the car, I think, and go over the Highlands and go right up to the islands, and just spend a lot of time skiing and traveling around and having fun. Because a lot of people who live around here, they tend to go to Spain and France, though, to get the sun because we don't get a lot of sun. But I really like the idea of going up into the Highlands and visiting the islands and things. And so that's probably what we're going to do. That and just getting more and more involved in the community. We'll have more time so I can dedicate more time to helping with the musical memories, doing stuff there. I am helping them just being a body. They play music and sing and they do share-based exercise and things like that, which both Francesca and I have done before. And so we'd start getting more involved with that. So, and of course the table tennis is always there. So that's what keeps me moving. I think it's always the joints.
Yes.
This is all fantastic, Joe. The fact you've based all this in 5 years. You've gone from nothing.
It was actually 3.5 years, but yeah.
Well done.
Well, it sort of fell into our lap. Like I said, this village is so much more than we ever thought it was going to be. But we're very, very lucky, I think. We always have been. We just lucked out and landed in the right place, I think.
So it's like being a schoolboy again and doing all the fun things that you used to like to do when you were little.
This is it. It's carrying on a lot of the stuff I used to do to get paid for as well. But I can do it for fun. As opposed to have to do it to get paid, which makes a big difference.
Yes. Good.
Well, anything else we should be asking you, Joe? Seems to be lots of stuff that's been going on.
Yeah, I am still doing a lot of my hobbies. Colin, I had some odd hobbies where I play and paint little miniatures for tabletop wargaming. So I get to do a lot more of that now because I've got I can set aside time for that. They've got a repair cafe in a village round the corner, about 20 minutes away, and I'm thinking about getting involved with that, but I'm holding off on that for a little bit. But that's the type of thing that I could do. And also, I spend a lot of time in the garage building, sawing wood and cutting things up and making new things out of them.
Good man. Well done.
So I keep myself very busy, which is I think that's probably the trick. And then when I don't want to do anything, and I've learned to take an afternoon nap. That's the other thing, which I don't have to, but I've learned that I can. I can just stop and just have a nap in the afternoon, which makes a big difference.
Well, they all say it's a good thing to do.
It works.
I hope we're not in the middle of this, Joe.
No.
Is that when you nodded off just then, Colin?
You just mentioned it. Well, Joe, it's been great. And the reason for you was actually because Joe and I used to go to the same church, and I just said, explained our concept to someone, quick 10-second things. So I said, who do you think I should be talking to next? They said, oh, without a doubt, talk to Joe. And so we are. So
Good.
thank you so much. This has been
Really, really good, Joe. Really interesting. And I think you'll get people thinking about a lot of what you've said and wondering if they should do something similar.
Well, I hope so. I'm having fun at it, so they should.
Sounds a great laugh. And thank you very much.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. All the best.
Cheers.
Well, nice. Wasn't Joe interesting?
He was interesting, and it's the first. It's quite original in terms of our first one we've done. We've not done one quite like this, and there's some very, very good, strong points coming out from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And soon started to talk about his career. So acting, performing, running a stagecoach school. And I know, they might have 100 kids there. So big involvement, and get involved with shops and Richie computer programming. I never knew that. So very interesting career.
Certainly was. On retirement, he and his wife decided to move to Scotland to be with their daughter and family, a new family, new grandchildren coming. So up sticks and went up there, and absolutely no regrets with that move at all.
Yeah. And it's significant because they'd spent over 60 years in one place before that. And then when we talked to him about his new, new place of living, the new village, and the word that he kept coming up was community. All the things he does for the community, that he would only go somewhere with a coffee shop, and this has got a community coffee shop. And he gets involved in table tennis, and there's a community pub. So really good lesson of, great involvement in local things.
Absolutely. And just because you're retired, he says, don't feel old. You don't need to. You don't need to feel old. Just get involved and meet people.
Yeah.
And things follow on from there.
Yeah, sure. And then a sort of goal of, while everyone in Scotland is going to Spain or whatever, he wants to learn about Scotland. And if you think of I don't know how many, thousands of islands there that you can get to, the Highlands, and they want to do this as a coach trip. And what an astonishing idea. I do really, really like that. Same country, but really get to know your country.
Yes, that's a very, very good idea. And there is no better place to visit on Earth, really, than the Highlands and Islands. Wonderful, wonderful. Back where they live in the village, he's very involved, hardly surprisingly, in the stage shows that they have there, and not just with adults, but with the children as well, doing shows with them, and also doing an annual panto. So really great community involvement there.
Yeah, I think that's it, no?
Well, not quite. You've forgotten again, haven't you, Colin?
There's a subscribe button. Hit that.
Yeah.
And that will get you to YouTube. But as from today, some of our early recordings are now on Apple Podcasts. So we're moving up, Nige.
My goodness me. We'll be famous one of these days. We'll be famous.
Keep trying.
We'll be millionaires.
Right. See you soon, Nige.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye.
Encore and out. Bye.